Time is something that waits on no one. It's said that time heals all wounds, but the hands of time never told me it would be okay. It didn't help me forget the smell of the ashes that burned that day. Lord, help me to heal. Help me to understand. Help me to move on. I want to feel right after feeling so wrong for so long. It's so hard to do. Will my scars heal right away? Or will they remind me every day that I'm still hurting? Scars that go this deep can't always heal, can they? They linger on for others to see. The hurt inside is just a small capsule of what others have been through, but it's my pain. It's mine to hold on to. Time can only tell if we will ever truly heal, but that's up to me. It starts right here and right now, in this time, in this place. Time won't wait for anyone, but time can change me. It can change people. It can change our community. Lord, give us strength to heal, every one of us, all.
So I became fully aware of what happened during the Tulsa Massacre probably about 10 years ago. And I was just astounded because I had never heard anything about what happened in Greenwood and to the Black citizens there.
So when I found out that this was going to be the next location for the national conference and we did a trip here, it wasn't until I came here and just saw Greenwood and heard, the history, heard folks' stories that I was like, wow, this really happened, because we never learned about it in school. It was just things you hear from family members, but it doesn't drive the point home until you're here. You read the stories from the people who, lived it.
But people don't want to come forward. They still are not telling the story. Another woman told me that her mother was working in an office downtown in Greenwood when the fighting started, the gunshots and everything. She was running down the street with her boyfriend, and they had agreed in advance that if anything happened, they're to lay down on the street and pretend they're dead. So she fell and he kept running. She laid on the street pretending to be dead. The white people came and put her mother's body on a truck full of dead bodies. And when the truck pulled off, she jumped off the back of the truck and ran home. Those stories have not been told. And those stories, there are more out there. So what's important is that these stories be told and that people feel safe in the telling.
We're dealing with a lot of those same issues now, that things are happening, but we're hiding them, or we're saying they didn't happen, or we're pushing them under the rug. And we don't want to always acknowledge the accomplishments of people of African descent.
You have to continue to learn. It's that learning and just that process that we know that we can build and not repeat the situations that's happened in our history. It's important for everyone to come to Tulsa and see this exhibit, because this is American history. Yes, it might have happened to Black people 100 years ago, but this is the history of America. And again, we have to learn from our history in order to make a difference for the future.
That these are children's tales that are being told by adults who went through it. So it's important that we talk to the youth, because then they can relate to, this was a young person my age. This person was 7 when this happened. This person was 10 when it happened. So they had to deal with this trauma themselves. And I think that's a significant part of all these stories, because they were the ones who are around now were children.
There were planes dropping bombs. they wanted the land. They wanted people's property, they wanted their businesses. And so it wasn't just something that happened out of nowhere. It was greed, it was malice, it was forethought. And we've got to find a way to reconnect, because we are living in community. And what happens to you affects me and vice versa. And if we're going to be stronger, we've got to come together.
Because faith is believing in something before you can even see it. When we did that trip to the church, it was chills, but it was an experience that I can't even put into words. It was just, it saved people. And the fact that we were able to see it visually, standing there over 100 years later, it is going to be bigger and then even better than before.
There are a lot of community entities that are working together to make sure this story is told. I am a member of the Oklahoma Centennial Commission, which was designed to commemorate what happened in 1921. And there is a concern for some people, which is a valid concern, that we remember this is a memorial. While we are commemorating, we are not celebrating. And that story, the honest look at what happened, may make some people uncomfortable, but then history is in and of itself uncomfortable.
The humiliation, the hostility, and then the hope. And so that continuum that, people were killed, they were marched through the street, they faced that hostility from the white mob, but then at the end of that, it was hope. Babies were still born, people renewed the businesses, the homes, and everything else in the community. And so also trying to hold on to that and use that as a touchstone for myself, because times are difficult. We've had a really difficult year as a country, as a world, and people have been through incredible things before, and they've come on the other side, and I'm using that as hope that we can come on the other side of this.
Well, my takeaway from my trip to Tulsa this weekend is I learned more about my history. I also took away the feeling of hope for us to move forward.
How do we heal? We've got to talk about this. It's got to be an open communication with people who want to try to make things better. We've told the story everywhere we can tell it, because it's important to recognize that the persons who went through this have a history that may not have been written in books. There's an oral history, and no less true than what was written in books. So there's contrast to the perspectives that are being told. But it's important, as that African proverb says, until the lion tells the tale, stories of victories of the hunt will always glorify the hunter.